The NFL offseason is about to kick off in earnest at the Combine. I am in Indianapolis. Adam Rank, Bears fan, joins me on today's show. So let's get you set for where the Packers stand right now as we head into the offseason, into the pre-draft process, into free agency, into all of it here today on Locked On Packers.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. We are here in Indianapolis for the Combine, my first ever Combine, by the way. I'm very excited to be here in Indianapolis. I've already seen, I'm pulling into my hotel, and there's Brian Daboll. I'm walking to the JW Marriott. There's Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I see Joe Barry. I see Liam Cohen. I see Tony Baselli. I mean, I saw everybody at St. Elmo's last night. The shrimp cocktail as advertised. Not personally to my taste. That horseradish is gnarly, but it was a lot of fun to be there. The atmosphere in Indianapolis. I will never miss one of these ever again. If I can avoid missing it, I will avoid missing it. I want to be here because this is really a cool experience to be down here for this. Adam Rank is here on the show. You know him from NFL Network. He's a Bears fan. He loves to troll the Packers. But look, I'm a Packers podcaster. I'm a Packers reporter and writer. And, you know, some have said provocateur. I wouldn't say that, but some people have said that. And so I think it's only right that we have someone like that. We talked at the Super Bowl. I'm very excited to bring you that interview. But in order to set the table on that, in order to set the table on everything we have here coming this week at the Combine, trying to bring you everyone's talking about what's going on with the Rams right now. Everyone's talking about Matthew Stafford. Aaron Rodgers could be the next quarterback of the LA Rams. They bring in Scott Van Pelt. It'd be wild if they brought in Scott Van Pelt. Alex Van Pelt, who is a huge benefactor of Aaron Rodgers. When the Packers moved on from Alex Van Pelt, Aaron Rodgers went on TV and said, I think this is nonsense. I hate that they did this. It was the first time where we were like, oh, this is interesting from Rodgers. And of course it built from there. But I'll be able to have more information once I've had a full day here to gather, to talk, agents, teams, media, all kinds of stuff. Let's start with where the Packers are right now. And I was just talking to, I was at dinner and I was having a conversation with an agent that was there, and a lot of things are changing right now. I was talking to a Detroit media person last night. Ben Johnson out in Detroit, but in Chicago. The problem for the Bears is they just don't have the players right now. They need Caleb Williams to take a real step forward. They need Rome Odunze to take a real step forward. And then defensively, they need, I think, more than Bears fans realize. Jalen Johnson is a really good player. Montez Sweat is a nice player. After that, what do they really have right now? I mean, I think that's a real question. And then offensively, the offensive line needs to be revamped. The Bears, as we sit here today, very clearly the fourth best team in the NFC North. After that, I think talent-wise, the Lions, I think they have to be first. The question for them is, what's the situation with the coaches? How much of a loss is Ben Johnson? I think that's going to be okay because we see Jared Goff now. Now he's played with two really good offensive coordinators. So that when he's played his best, it's been that. We don't know if John Morton, not Johnny the receiver Morton, can get that level of play out of Jared Goff. But with Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and the best offensive line in the league, it's not going to take a rocket scientist to take that team and make it a pretty good offense. While I think Ben Johnson was the better coach relative to Aaron Glenn, I was extremely impressed last year in particular with Aaron Glenn and what he was able to do with a defense that outside of Aiden Hutchinson was not very talented. And they have some decisions to make this offseason. A number of their players are free agents. The Vikings have the same problem. Guys like Andrew Van Ginkel and some core pieces for them. Guys who were Pro Bowl, borderline all-pro kinds of players. Byron Murphy. Like, are they going to sign all those guys? Harrison Smith. They have the money to come back with a lot of those guys, but what are they going to do? The Lions, I think, talent-wise, are at the top. But I don't think the Packers are far behind, and I think the coaching staff, with the question marks, I don't think you can put the Packers too much further behind the Lions than right at the top. I think this is 1A and 1B, and if you told me at the end of the year the Packers were at the top, I wouldn't be surprised at all given the talent on this roster. The Vikings are the wild cards because they are incredibly well coached. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores. Brian Flores stays in Minnesota, but we don't know what's going on with the quarterback. Sam Darnold, like Peter Schrager went on a 2-minute soliloquy about the future of Matthew Stafford and didn't say the name Sam Darnold one time. I assumed if the Rams were going to move on from Matthew Stafford, it was going to be because they felt like they had the best opportunity to win with Sam Darnold, and yet I don't know if that seems like it's a thing that's going to happen. That leaves pretty massive questions at the quarterback position. Sam Darnold gave them really good quarterback play last year. I don't think we can just assume that when J.J. McCarthy returns to health, we've never seen J.J. McCarthy in a real NFL game. And he's just going to walk in. Like, I understand Sam Darnold, the NFL experience that we have with him to date, or at least to date before this past season, was pretty mixed. Like, if we're being like diplomatic about it, pretty mixed. And yet he had a great season. J.J. McCarthy, it's zero. It's nothing. And the chances of him just walking in and being great right away, pretty low, even with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Kevin O'Connell and a pretty good offensive line. So I think the Vikings right now, with the players that they stand to lose, with the quarterback situation in flux, we don't know the future of Sam Darnold. I think they have to be third, which if you're the Packers, you're going, okay, well, how close are we to being the team that we want to be? How close are we to being, and what does that mean from an urgency standpoint? You know, we heard from Myles Garrett. He said that the Lions were one of the teams that have called the most. The Eagles were another. They didn't mention the Packers. But I mentioned this on a radio hit with Bill Michaels yesterday. What was the last Packers move you heard about before it was made? What was the last Packers move you heard about before it was made that wasn't the Aaron Rodgers trade? We didn't know Xavier McKinney was coming to Green Bay until the moment it was reported he was coming to Green Bay. A lot of Packer fans thought it was an intuitive signing. They wanted him to come to Green Bay, but that's not the same as thinking he was. Josh Jacobs, we have no idea that was coming. I go back to Julius Peppers. We had no idea, no inkling, no inclination that was coming until it happened. So just because we haven't heard a lot from the Packers does not mean something isn't in the works. I think they are one of, like, after the Eagles, and I asked this question before the NFC Championship game. I think after the NFC Championship game, the answer is obvious about who the favorite is heading into the 2025 season. The favorite in the NFC is the Philadelphia Eagles. Who is the second favorite? The odds makers say the Lions. The odds makers say the third favorites are the 49ers. We will see about that. We'll see what Brandon Ayuk, when he comes back, what he looks like. We'll see what Deebo Samuel, what his future has in store. It seems like he is not going to be a 49er. They have made a change again at defensive coordinator. That offensive line, Trent Williams is getting older. Christian McCaffrey, is he going to stay healthy? I think the Packers belong in that conversation right there. If I think that they're right there with the Lions, then I can't argue that they're any lower than the 49ers in that next tier. So this Packers team is in good position to add one or maybe two impact players, bank on the development of their current guys, and then go win. Now, what does Adam Rank think from NFL Network? Bears fan. We talked to him at Super Bowl. He had a lot to say. I think you're going to have fun with it. I had fun with it. That's next on Locked On Packers.
So I came to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, and I thought, how can I find a guest who's going to maximally enrage two fan bases at the same time?
Yeah.
And I found Adam Rank.
Even my own.
Exactly right. That's
They're
what I mean.
like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, because like the Commander fans were already over me. Poor JP over at whatever station in Washington had me on. He posted a photo of us. I've never seen a ratio that hard for something of innocuous of just a photograph. Like my literal image caused people pain and consternation, much like it will be today.
Yeah. I bow before that that level of haterade that is being poured.
It's heel heat.
Yeah.
You know, I will say though, if you ever wanted to go to the Westfield Mall in Schaumburg, might not be a great place for you. Just saying, like, listen, game recognizes game in a way.
Listen, Schaumburg, it's a beautiful town.
It is.
But I would probably be making sure I had a friend with me.
I would think so. That's probably a good idea. Have some sort of security detail just in case my Uncle Gene was out there rolling around.
So this is the fun part of Packers Bears right now in this moment, because the Bears, I'm already getting tweets about like Bears are undefeated against the Packers in 2025, and then the Ben Johnson thing.
Caleb Williams has never lost at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, we got the Lambeau set over there.
I was over there letting people know. I said, if you didn't know any facts, there's a couple of things you might not be aware of. Caleb Williams undefeated Lambeau Field.
Yeah, he now owns the Packers, all that stuff.
Yes.
But now we might actually get a rivalry, like teams on the field worth the rivalry.
Yes.
And we haven't had that in a long time.
Yes. It was often like whenever you would see the Bears and the Packers, it was like, well, it's the Bears, but it's like the old version of Ric Flair Bears. It's not like prime 80s Bears.
Yeah.
It is the guy, a little bit older.
You're still getting the woo.
You're still like, it's the C on the helmet and everything like that. The colors are the same, but it was certainly not the same team that a lot of us grew up loving and embracing and everything like that. But I think when you look at the history of the NFL and some of the things that make the NFL work, it's having great rivalries.
Yeah.
And like you get these rivalries with teams like, hey, like these teams don't like each other, but like historically, Bears-Packers has been one that like literally people do not like. Ben Johnson hit the ground running. Not even, like a lot of times when a Bears guy, a guy gets hired by Chicago, like I'm sure they handed this sheet to Eberflus and he's like, love deep dish pizza, although tavern style's great. Never have mustard or never have ketchup on a hot dog, and let's beat the Packers. I like that Ben Johnson actually went the other way and said that I am going after Matt LaFleur. I enjoy beating Matt LaFleur.
They're not buddies. It's just like, hey, I'm going to take a shot at this
What
guy.
has been? He's like, I won't even wear Lululemon. That's how much I don't like Matt LaFleur. How is Matt
I'm
LaFleur?
not going to pluck my eyebrows all year in protest.
And by the way, I was watching that playoff game. Did he give everybody a Groupon for eyebrow plucking? Because I noticed some of the other members of the staff, I'm like, what sort of stepper
Everyone's
thing
very well groomed.
is going? They're well groomed. They're the only team licensed by Lululemon. Like that is the thing. Like everybody else has got Fanatic stuff.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur takes his stuff down to the Lulu
look
store.
good, play good.
Apparently.
So the Ben Johnson hire got Bears fans very excited.
Yes.
Are you like, is this it? I think, is this going to change everything, or are we cautiously optimistic? Or like
we always think
Super Bowl?
We always think it's going to change everything. Listen, you can tune in April, May, whatever, when I do my predictions. 12-5. You know it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know I'm picking us to go 12-5.
Yep.
Just be ready for it. Seth Rollins today, he said two things to me. He said, Adam, here's two things that I, Seth Rollins, want you to know. Number one, don't pick us to go 12-5 again. That never works. And number two, don't name drop me. So Seth Rollins, I will not drop your name here in this. Gosh, dang it. You're right. But the thing of it is, here's what I really like about what the Bears have done with this hire.
Yeah.
Is that they paid the money. I don't know if I was like
that was what I was most dubious that they would do. I was like, they're just going to cheap out.
Your cold takes exposed.
I got.
Which is fine.
I got.
Listen, I have
not my first time, not my last.
I have a sister. I'm on there too. I'm famous on that thing. But like you were like 0% chance, and historically you would have been right. Like when the Bears were interviewing Mike McCarthy, didn't it just seem like that's who they're hiring?
Yes.
This is the barest hire of all time. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, it's understandable why you would feel that way. So for them to go out there and spend the money, Ryan Poles has given a little bit of security. We understand now that when Kevin Warren was saying like, hey, Ryan Poles is doing this, he was actually doing it because he was letting Ben Johnson know like, no, I'm not interfering. Ryan's going to be able to make this hire. You're good. And now when you go back and kind of watch, it's kind of like watching like season 3 of Sons of Anarchy, which during the moment you might not have liked it, but when you went back and watched it all, after seeing it all unfold, you're like, oh, now this all makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I like, is that the Bears are joining modern football.
Well, welcome to modern football then.
Thank you. It's been a long time.
Where are you? Because, you know, you also have to have the fantasy side of this. So you have to have like a fair view of who these players are in order to rank them properly. Where are you on Jordan Love?
I mean, he's good. Like, he's a good player. But you know what? Over the last couple of weeks, stopped throwing interceptions, which was huge. But at the same time, they were giving up too much production to Josh Jacobs. Yeah. And so I know, like, this is the thing that's always dubious too. And I'm like, listen, I'm not starting Jordan Love. Here's why. Like, Josh Jacobs is going to score 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And so you got to make sure. And you know, and people will be like, oh, you're just saying that. I'm like, I got Josh Jacobs as my number 2 running back. So it's not like I'm not hating on him by any stretch of the imagination. Jordan Love's a good player, and I think what's interesting with having so many years of Aaron Rodgers, of somebody who really wasn't going to take a chance. Like, he just wasn't going to throw an interception. He wasn't going to do that. Jordan Love's a little bit more of a risk taker, where he's going more into the Brett Favre side of things, where it's like, he might throw a couple of picks and do whatever. But you know what? Coming out of the draft, if I go back to my draft, like, this is the one thing you can always call me on. Coming out of the draft, I really did like Jordan Love. I actually thought he was going to be better than Justin Herbert. And in my pre-rankings, I'm like, I kind of like him better. The only thing that gave me pause is that his final season at Utah State, he wasn't all Mountain West. Who are the other quarterbacks in the Mountain West that you're like, this guy's better than Jordan Love? Because I remember him in college being good.
Do you know who was first team on Mountain West?
I have no idea. I should know the answer to that.
I'll get it. I'll have it in the show when we're on this. But
yeah. More with Adam Rank coming up here on Locked On Packers.
Yeah, I think that the Caleb versus Jordan thing, that's only going to get louder.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, and this goes then with Jaden Daniels as well. We want to be like the AFC. The AFC is a lot of fun because you got Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, even Justin Herbert. You can throw into that mix. The NFC's got, right now, Jalen Hurts, and that's it. So if Jaden's good, if Caleb's good, and Jordan's good, it's fine. And I think that we can like our guy and be like, because I don't think Bills fans don't long to have Patrick Mahomes. I mean, some might or whatever, because whatever. But I think like a Cincinnati fan is very comfortable with their quarterback. Yeah. I think we're going to be in a situation where all those fan bases are comfortable with their quarterback and be like, hey, our guy's good. Our guy's going to give us a chance to win. And we hate on the other guy just because we don't like the team, not because we don't like the player.
Caleb Williams, rookie season, give you reasons for pause or only optimism, or like it was everybody else's fault? Because that's like the company line, is it was everybody else's fault.
It's not. I mean, like, he still threw for like 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns. For a Bears quarterback, that is one of the best seasons in history.
Low bar, but yeah.
Not a great bar. You know, it's true. It's like you guys with the running backs. Like, oh my God, you had a guy who got close to double digits in touchdown. That's fine. Matt Forte would be the all-time greatest Packers running back. Right?
Well, maybe in
Paul Horning, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say by modern standards. Yeah, I got you. Sorry.
But here's what I'm talking about. We did great with the running backs. You guys did great with the quarterbacks. It's fine.
Yeah. Gale Sayers, Walter Payton. Like, come on. Like, yeah.
You know, Neil Anderson.
The Bears know how to do the running backs.
We're doing all right. I know that it wasn't great. It wasn't quite what we expected, but I think a lot of it had to do with the circumstances of the team, playing for 3 different offensive coordinators, 2 head coaches, and with the team being so bad. So the Hail Mary happens.
Yeah.
So Caleb doesn't get credit for engineering a winning drive. The missed field goal the first time against the Packers, he doesn't get credit for engineering a winning drive.
Right.
Minnesota, that one's a little bit iffier. That was more of a miraculous thing. Not being able to finish against the Lions, he doesn't get credit for those wins because obviously the Bears didn't win, but he still got them there.
Right.
So for me, his season would look a lot different. I mean, like you would almost make the argument, had they beaten the Commanders, the season turns out different. Washington seasons turns out different.
I think that's probably
you
true.
never know. I was on with Washington. I'm like, listen, it was like a butterfly effect. Tyreek Stevenson set a butterfly effect that got Washington to the NFC Championship game. Something that I don't think happens if that play doesn't happen. So,
But that's the biggest thing to me, because one of the things that is like one of those truisms that people love to say to get people riled up is this is why bad teams stay bad.
yeah.
And organizationally and culturally, there's a lot of things. When a head coach comes in,
Yeah.
Ben Johnson doesn't have to just undo whatever coaching mistakes Matt Eberflus made. You've got to revamp, remake, retool a culture
Yeah.
that is on the level with the Lions. We know their culture, the Vikings, the Packers. Like forget the talent level. Culturally, that's where I feel like they have to make up the most ground.
Yeah, and that 100%. And honestly, the Tyreek Stevenson thing in hindsight was actually a blessing. It's kind of like you had a leak in your kitchen and you're like, oh, I got to change the faucet. Oh, wait, no, there's dry rot. And now the foundation's ruined. We got to fix everything, not just one thing where we're
thank
changing
God
out a
you found
washer.
it.
We found it. Because, like, honestly, they win that game 5-2. Maybe some other win. If they get close, so they would have 5 wins. They would have been about 2 wins away from being like, well, let's see. He's progressing. It was a rookie quarterback. Let's give Matt Eberflus one last chance. Never hire Ben Johnson. It could be the same old Bears all over again. But one of the things that I really appreciate about the coaching staff that Ben Johnson is putting together is that you got Dennis Allen, who's a great defensive coordinator. James Jones was on with me earlier today, and he's like, listen, Dennis Allen is not a good head coach. He's a great defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he is.
You bring in Antoine
I was very annoyed by that hire.
Yeah, that's a bad one for you.
Yeah.
Antoine Randall is amazing. And I think Eric Bieniemy. Like 2 guys who don't take anything from anybody.
Right.
That's what this team needs. You remember, with Antoine Randall yelling at Jamison Williams on the sideline, like, why are you arguing with Tyreek Stevenson of all people? They need that kind of accountability. And I think that's one of the biggest difference makers. Beyond what Ben Johnson's going to bring X's and O's, as you say, trying to change the culture in Chicago.
Okay, so you are famous on Packers social media for a lot of things, but picking against the Packers.
How dare you.
Until you didn't.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll admit it, maybe you won't. That was a reverse jinx, be honest.
No, because I know that I hold no sway on that one. That was against when you beat the Cowboys last year, yeah?
Well, no, there was one this year at the
Oh, yeah. No, I knew that you guys were going to win that game. 100%. Because everybody was on, admittingly, I am alerted when everything's unanimous. So they will give me a tip off, hey, do you want to fade the public here or not? Sometimes I don't. Like, no, like that's ridiculous. I'm not taking the Browns. I'm not taking the Browns over the Ravens. You know what I'm saying? I had a feeling about the Packers, but my instinct is always to be like, Packers are going to lose. And then they let me know, like, hey, the public's on. I forget was it the 49ers?
I don't remember what the game was, honestly. I wish I could.
But I go, nobody's picking the Packers? I'm like, give me the Packers. Like, I legitimately thought initially, in a non-biased way, that they were going to win that game. Or you were going to win that game. And then when I found out that I could fade the public, I'm like, oh, yeah, this will be even better. And if they do lose, then they're going to be so mad at me.
Yeah, so
Which
that's
is
like a
also fun.
win-win-win.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds right there.
So if Packer fans want to find your stuff,
They know where to find me. Oh, they find me. You don't need to tell them. They know where I am. They find me all the time. Some guy drove by at my daughter's AYSO soccer game. No, his daughter was playing in another field. He was walking by. He's like, go, Pack, go. And I'm like, did you just stop? He's like, no, my daughter's playing over there. I'm like, okay, that would have been a bit.
Don't be weird.
Don't
Please
be
don't
weird.
be weird.
That was fun. Yeah, nice person. And so, at Adam Rank on the Twitter.
They definitely know that one.
They know that one very well. At Adam Rank NFL, because there's a Brit. I'm still surprised this guy has never released the at Adam Rank on Instagram to me, because I'm like, although his account's private
Even for
now.
some money.
I offered him money. I'm like, I'll give you some cash for this, just for your trouble. Nothing. And I'm like, you have to have requests from angry people all the time, but it's never going to work out.
Is that Ben Johnson calling?
It is Ben Johnson.
All right, I'll let you take it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks to Adam Rank for joining the show. It was truly a fun time to talk with him, but don't tell him I said that. Brian Gutekunst speaks to the media today. We will hear from him, and then on Wednesday, we will hear from a lot of defensive players. I'm here Wednesday. I'm leaving Thursday, so there are some receivers that I'd really like to talk to. I will not be here to talk to them, but this defensive line group, guys like Omar Norman Lott, who I just drafted in our mock draft the other day, guys like Jaden Ivey, guys like Prince Umar Malian, guys like Walter Nolan, these defensive tackles, these pass rushers. I will be here to talk to them, and I cannot wait to do that, to bring you that stuff. So a lot of great stuff coming this week from the Combine. Maybe I can grab a newsbreaker. Maybe I can talk to someone. Maybe I can bring you some information, things that I'm hearing, what is everybody talking about? The Combine is as much about the stories as it is the players. There's always NFL storylines to follow this week. So all of that coming up here on Locked On Packers from the Combine in Indianapolis. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast. Of course, go subscribe over on our YouTube page, wherever you get podcasts, so you can stay Locked On Packers.